big news this morning, meanwhile, in the Premier League, Arne Slot sacked at Liverpool. Liverpool FC can confirm Arne Slot is to depart his role as head coach with immediate effect and that the process to appoint a successor is underway. He leaves with a Premier League title to his name and our deepest gratitude and appreciation. Jürgen and Robbo are still with us. Iraola, by the way, is the favourite to take over. We'll talk about that possibility a little bit later on, but let's just discuss this decision first, Craig. And this is a decision that we've expected to come amongst us over the last couple of weeks, but maybe this comes as a surprise that Liverpool have actually done it.
Yeah, well, once we were, as you know, when we were back in London for the Cup final, the word from some of the journalists, including Mark Ogden, our colleague, was that they'd looked at Xabi Alonso and Slot and they felt Slot was the better option. So at that point, we were saying, OK, Liverpool are going to give him the summer and they're going to go again. And he's going to get an opportunity to start next season. That's certainly what it felt, and that was only 2 weeks ago. Particularly when Alonso takes the Chelsea job, it was pretty clear that Liverpool weren't convinced about him. Now, obviously, Iraola has made it clear that he was leaving Bournemouth, so that was out there. But it did seem that Slot was going to survive. Not that we felt, most of us, and certainly I didn't think he'd done enough to survive, and I think that it looked like it needed a change in terms of the impetus and a little bit of freshness about it. But once the Alonso thing unfolded and what we were hearing, to see that this morning, I was surprised. But clearly they've looked at it and went, do you know what? Iraola, decision has to be made. We're going to do it. So in some sense, he's maybe a little unlucky that he won the league. Should he have got another year? There'll be some in that camp. But I think Iraola getting in there, if that's the case, that could be a very exciting appointment.
It was so amazing, actually, to see in real time how the bucket of equity that he had built just began to empty. And every game and every week that went by, a guy that sits usually in this seat, Stephen Nicol, who was defending Arne Slot. Okay, Arne Slot. Yeah, here we go, Arne Slot. Yeah. All right, Arne Slot, I believe. Okay, I'm not believing anymore. And that's as the equity's going down and further down, and how he's handling certain decisions and how he's handling the team. And then Mohamed Salah puts out on social media what he puts out. There is no support really from the players. Other players like the tweet that, or the message that Mohamed Salah put out on social media as well. And he just creates this environment in which a bucket full of equity, empty, totally empty by the end of the season and unsustainable. Therefore, it's not a surprise that he's gone. It's just, it feels like once he survived the end of the season, it felt like, okay, maybe he is surviving. Not so much. He gone.
Tough school, this management, Lark, Jürgen?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, obviously, he had a fantastic first season winning the title, and this year it didn't go his way. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that we do not know. We do not know that who made the decisions on certain transfers. To fill basically this bucket with equity, as Alejandro says. Who is responsible? Is that Arne Slot, who wanted to double the positions with the national team players, top players, that you have to at the end of the day then put 2 or 3 of them. I'm talking about the forwards and first and foremost on the bench. Mohamed Salah, you cannot put on a bench, and Florian Wirtz, when you buy him for 50 million, you cannot put him on the bench. And you have a Gakpo, you have 5, 6 of these top class forwards, and suddenly you have a problem in your dressing room because these players, they want to play. They want to play every single game. And so the question is, was that Arne Slot who wanted them so badly, who wanted to double the positions, or was that people within the club that made those calls? But eventually, for a manager, and that's our role as a manager, you pay the price if the results are not coming in. And this year, unfortunately, the results didn't come in. And I'm still surprised a little bit because I thought, okay, there's not much out there in the market now for them to look out for. But I thought they give him another year and then maybe things calm down. The year one then after Mohamed Salah, basically. They pulled the plug, and I'm a bit surprised of that.
But Jürgen, if we're applauding Luis Enrique for making big decisions, like benching Dembele or Kvaratskhelia this season, why is it a different kettle of fish for Arne Slot when he makes a big decision and drops his main player?
Well, because the hierarchy within the team is from the outside, you cannot judge that. You can only feel the hierarchy between the guys in the dressing room. These are 25, 28, sometimes 30 players. And you have to be very clear who are your leaders and who are your soldiers. And so every team is that different. I mean, Luis Enrique was able then to redefine the hierarchy of Paris Saint-Germain with letting go Mbappé. And obviously before that, Neymar and Messi as well. But we don't feel the chemistry of the players, and the spirit of that team. But I said it in the beginning of the season when they brought in, they had basically 6 top-class strikers, Liverpool, and 3 of them have to be on the bench. If you play with 3 strikers, which a lot of people don't even do that, a lot of them play with 2 or even 1 strike only. But that from the beginning on, caused problems. And Florian Wirtz took his time to adjust to the club, to adjust to a new lifestyle in Merseyside and understanding how difficult it is sometimes to go abroad and be the same player as you were before that in your hometown. But professional football doesn't give you the time. They ask for results, they ask for goals from strikers, and so it was difficult from the outside, as we always discussed it throughout the season, and to judge the players and to understand the hierarchy of that group of players. And then obviously the relationship between manager and players is vital, is very, very important. And when a player like Mohamed Salah then speaks out, with the media, that doesn't help you at all.
Where did it go wrong, do you think, Robbo, for him?
Well, for me, I think it went wrong in the summer. Not with the signings. Isak, I don't think was a good signing because it took a long time and he wasn't fit when he came. And I've said it many, many times when I've seen it happen to Arsenal with Aubameyang. When a player is getting older, and he's been a great player, Mo Salah and Van Dijk have been great players. Their contracts were up, and they had to pay them either a fortune to keep them or to say, right, their time's up. They're not going to be able to be those players anymore. They signed them and gave them massive contracts on massive money, and they're a year older, and they didn't perform. And then the manager's got a problem. He probably didn't want Mo Salah in the side because he wasn't playing well enough. But he's, as Jürgen just said, you can't drop Mo Salah. So he's now in a difficult situation. Do I drop him? Do I not? I want to drop him, but I can't. And eventually he does, and it causes problems. Van Dijk wasn't playing very well, and he was blaming everybody else for all the mistakes and throwing his arms up in the air and saying the other players weren't working hard enough. He was one of the major problems. The 2 players they carried on and signed and gave them massive contracts was the biggest fault they made in the summer, along with Isak.
I bet you now, on that sort of point that Robbo makes, is that he's been sacked anyway, and he probably wishes he'd made some of those big decisions that upset players and maybe upset supporters. Because, if you're going to... Every manager's going to get sacked at some point. You might as well go having made the big decisions that you thought were right. There's no doubt those players did not help him. Konate, Van Dijk, the experienced players, McAllister, Gravenberg, they did not, Mo Salah, they did not play well this season. But I think a gauge of where this is there's a sympathetic thank you from the Liverpool fans.
Yeah.
There's no fighting, there's no moaning about it, certainly from the bulk of them. There's a, well, thanks for the title.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
But it's time to move on. And I kind of think that's where they've been for quite a few months. If you've watched games coming in from Anfield, it's been 5 or 10 minutes of the crowd getting up in excitement, and then other sides gaining possession, and Liverpool dilly-dallying, being very pedestrian, and a crowd getting frustrated. And I think that's where they are. They wanted a change in the management side, and that they're going to get it. But how much of a change they're going to get back on the pitch, that remains to be seen.
OK, Jürgen, Iraola is linked. He's the favourite to make that move, obviously leaving Bournemouth. Heavily favourite now to take over at Liverpool. Stupid question.
Oh, here we go.
Again.
As a manager, what are the big differences from managing a side like Bournemouth to a juggernaut like Liverpool?
Well, the big difference, one of the big differences, there are obviously a couple of big differences, but one is, how big of a support do you have from the board or from your CEO or whoever is above you when things go wrong in your first couple of months? If you maybe have 3 losses in a row, and so how secure are you in your position? What is your leverage with the players? When you're coming in and the players see after 2 months that if you lose 2 games, he's already kind of in doubt, then it's not going to be the same atmosphere in the dressing room that if, the CEO says clearly, no matter what happens, this is our manager for the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Do whatever you want to do, players, but don't fool around with it. Then it's a different message. So you depend on your relationship with your boss, and that gives you the right leverage with the players. And this is what Luis Enrique has. They backed him from day one on. He said, I want to make some unpopular decisions. I want to send some big names away. I want to build a team that is there for each other. And there will be some questions. There will be a lot of doubters. There will be some media comments. But you have to back me in this process. Otherwise, maybe I'm not the right manager for you. And so the people that own Paris Saint-Germain, they stick with that approach and gave him all the backing. So whoever now comes into Liverpool needs this type of support, needs this backing, and needs to be made very clear to the team that he's set in his position, no matter how the games go in the first couple of months in the new Premier League season, and then I think it can work out.
He's ready though, isn't he? I think he's ready. You look at Bournemouth finished 6th. When he took over, who's the guy that was manager? He was managing Wolves for a while. Gary, I can't remember. He was managing.
O'Neill, was it?
Gary O'Neill, doing a good job, but he's just keeping Bournemouth above that line. And they made this change, Bournemouth, in the ownership, because they wanted to be something a bit better than just staying afloat. So they bring the guy in who'd managed at Rayo Vallecano and done very well in Spain. And Iraola, great reputation, but a little bit young. So it was a bit of a risk, but it was a risk worth taking because not only did they stave off relegation, each season they finished better and better. They could have been in the Champions League next year had results gone their way in the final day. Zabanya, they sold. He played for PSG. Come on for PSG in the final today. Hoyson went to Real Madrid. Kerkez went to Liverpool. Semenyo went to Manchester City, and there have been others. And yet, with their recruitment and his management and his experience now and his knowledge, they finished 6th in the Premier League, let alone Bournemouth. So and not only that, the manner in which they've played with a very small budget. So it is a big step because you're not talking to the Bournemouth players now, you're talking to big cheeses. You're talking to players that might stick 2 fingers up at you. It might happen, and that's a different scenario. But I do think he's ready. I think he's a very progressive young manager, another one of the Spanish that are doing absolutely fantastically well. And I think he's ready for Liverpool. And I don't see anybody else out there at the moment that's why you would say, don't give it to Iraola. There's nobody I can see that's going to step into this job that's got bigger and better shoes than him at the moment. Whether he'll be a success, I don't know. But I think he's absolutely deserving of it, and it looks like he's going to get it.
You know who wasn't surprised that Arne Slot was let go? Andoni Iraola. Because we just discussed that Andoni Iraola turned down the possibility or removed his name from consideration for Milan. He said, nah, that's not the project for me. You know why? Because Iraola knew. He knew that there was something else coming, something else down the line, and that is Liverpool. Now, as it pertains to the differences between Bournemouth and Liverpool, everything matters in Liverpool. Every press conference, everything that you say matters. Every performance, every result, everything of every day, of every minute, of every second matters at a place like Liverpool. Because shows like ours, we will talk about Liverpool every single day if that's the case, if that's what it requires. And that, I think, is something that Iraola has to be able to address, that every single thing that he says is going to be analyzed, and every single performance from every single player is also going to be analyzed. It doesn't go under the table as it may for Bournemouth. And a result that perhaps may have been negative for Bournemouth, you just kind of let it go. That doesn't happen at Liverpool. Just ask Arne Slot.
Robert, you get the last word on this.
Well, I think Liverpool will be a better team. I think you get the best out of those players that they signed last year. They'd be better off. I mean, Mo Salah's been a wonderful player, not last year. They'd be better off without him, without Robson, who was a wonderful player. But they were dissenting characters. There won't be so much dissent in the dressing room. I think he'll have a good start. And once he has that good start, you'll see those players like Florian Wirtz play at his very best. Liverpool will be a better team next year, no doubt about it.
Jürgen, thank you very much. We'll let you go. Jules will be delighted, won't he, on the next edition of the Gab and Jules show, celebrating another win for PSG. You can check out his celebrations. His wife works for Arsenal, doesn't she? It's going to be...
Okay.
Anyway.
What kind of celebration is that?
Well, that's sleeping on the couch.
Okay, all right.